During dinner, my grandfather asked, "Did you like the car I gave you as a present last year?" I replied that I hadn't received any car. Then my parents froze, and the truth came to light. My name is Jake. I'm 23 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've always been the son that nobody wanted around. It's not one of those dramatic stories of abandonment or domestic violence. It's worse. It's the story of a family that simply decided I didn't matter enough. My parents, Sarah and Robert, were always very clear about who the favorite was. My sister Madison, 2 years younger, was the princess of the house. She was the one who received the best toys at Christmas. She was the one who got brand-name clothes. She was the one who heard words of encouragement when she got mediocre grades at school. I, on the other hand, could come home with a first-place certificate in Math Olympics and receive only a, "That's nice, but don't get cocky about it." I grew up accustomed to comparisons. "Look how affectionate Madison is," my mother would say when I tried to show affection. "See how spontaneous and fun she is," my father would add when I tried to tell some joke or interesting story. It was as if I were a poorly made draft of the person they really wanted as a son. When I finished high school with a 9.2 average and was accepted into 3 different universities, my parents barely looked up from the television. "University is very expensive, Jake," said my mother without even looking at me. "Besides, Madison will need support when her turn comes. She has a bright future ahead." At 18, while my sister got a new laptop to prepare for college entrance exams, I started working at an electronics store in the city mall. It wasn't my dream job, but it paid enough for me to support myself. I organized products, served customers, and sometimes even managed to make some good sales that earned me extra commission. The work was tiring, especially on weekends when the mall got crowded. I'd come home with aching feet and dry hands from handling so many products, but there was a certain dignity in it. I was building something on my own, without depending on anyone. Meanwhile, Madison continued living like a princess. At 20, she had never worked a single day. She spent afternoons at the gym, went out with friends for lunch at expensive restaurants, and always had money to buy whatever she wanted. My parents justified it by saying she was preparing for the job market, and that she was still too young to worry about these things. What intrigued me was where all that money came from. My father worked as an accountant at a small company, and my mother gave private English lessons a few times a week. It didn't seem enough to afford the lifestyle they led, especially considering all of Madison's expenses. The answer came when I was 19. My paternal grandfather William called to talk to me. He had always been different from my parents. When I was a child, he would take me fishing at the river that ran near his house, teach me to fix bicycles in his garage, and always listen to me attentively when I talked about my dreams and plans. "Jake, my boy," he said in that call, "I'm moving to Portugal. I got a good job opportunity there, and I think it'll be good for me to start over." I was sad, but I understood. He had been widowed 2 years ago and maybe really needed a change of scenery. "But don't worry," he continued. "I'll always take care of the family from there. Every month I'll send money to help you all. I want you to be able to study, to have the opportunities you deserve." After he moved, things at home visibly improved. My parents stopped complaining so much about bills. Madison started showing up in even more expensive clothes, and they even renovated the kitchen. When I asked about Grandpa William's money, my mother said he sent an amount every month to help with general household expenses. I didn't question much. After all, I had my job and could manage on my own. But sometimes I wondered if part of that money shouldn't be directed toward me, since Grandpa had specifically mentioned my studies. Contact with my grandfather became sporadic. He would call from time to time, always asking how I was, if I was managing to study, if I needed anything. I always said everything was fine, that I was working and managing on my own. He seemed proud, but also worried. "You've always been a special boy. Jake," he would tell me, "you have a good heart and a determination that few have. Don't let anyone make you feel like you're worth nothing." Those words sustained me on difficult days. When I'd come home tired from work and hear my family making comments about my mediocre job or about how I had no ambition, at least one person in the world believed in me. On my 23rd birthday, to my surprise, I found a small cake on the kitchen table when I got home from work. It wasn't much, one of those supermarket ones with artificial frosting, but it was there. My parents and Madison sang happy birthday, with the same enthusiasm of someone fulfilling a boring obligation. "It's from Grandpa William," my mother explained. "He asked us to organize something for you." I was touched. Even from far away, my grandfather remembered me. It was more than my own family usually did. We ate the cake in silence, each one lost in their own thoughts, and then everyone went back to their normal activities. But in the following weeks, I noticed strange changes. My parents started showing off even more. My mother appeared with a leather purse that cost more than my monthly salary. My father bought a watch that I had seen in a mall window for an absurd price. And Madison was unbearable with her designer clothes and sneakers that cost a fortune. One day, I heard my mother on the phone talking about a trip they were planning. "It'll be just the three of us," she was saying. "A little getaway to relax at the beach. Everything's already booked." When I found out about the trip, I wasn't invited. "There's no room for 4 people in the room," my father explained. "And you have to work anyway, right?" They spent an entire week at a 5-star resort, posting photos on Instagram of expensive meals, colorful drinks, and moments of happy family. I stayed home, working my normal shifts, wondering where all the extra money was coming from. Could it be that Grandpa William was sending more money? Maybe he had gotten a better job in Portugal or received some inheritance. I tried not to think much about it, but curiosity was eating at me. The year passed slowly. My routine continued the same. Work, home, work, home. Sometimes I'd go out with some colleagues for a beer, but in general my social life was limited. I didn't have money for the expensive activities my family did, and I kind of got used to the loneliness. Madison continued without working, living her princess life. My parents continued treating me like I was a burden on the family, and I continued trying to prove I was worth something, even though nobody seemed to notice. When my 24th birthday was approaching, I wasn't expecting anything special. Maybe another cheap cake, maybe not even that. But then, 3 days before the date, my phone rang. "Jake, my boy, how are you?" It was Grandpa William's warm voice, which I hadn't heard in months. "Grandpa, what a surprise!" "I'm well, working hard." Great. Listen, I have news for you. I'm returning to Brazil next week. I want to be there for your birthday." My heart raced. I hadn't seen my grandfather in 3 years, and now he was coming back especially for me? "We'll have dinner at the best restaurant in town," he continued. "Invite your parents and Madison. It'll be a family celebration." I hung up the phone with a smile that hadn't appeared on my face in a long time. Finally, someone who really cared about me would be here. I could barely wait to see Grandpa William again. When I told my family about the visit, the reaction was strange. My parents exchanged nervous glances, and Madison was quieter than usual. "That's good," said my mother, but her voice sounded forced. It'll be good to see Grandpa William again." I didn't understand why they seemed so uncomfortable. After all, it was Grandpa William who was funding their lifestyle. Shouldn't they be anxious to see him? But I didn't think much about it. I was too busy imagining what it would be like to reunite with the only person who had always believed in me. The day finally arrived. My grandfather William showed up at the front door in the middle of the afternoon, with that wide smile I remembered from my childhood. He was thinner, his hair grayer, but he had the same contagious energy as always. "My boy," he said, wrapping me in a tight hug. "How you've grown! You're a grown man." I felt an emotion I hadn't experienced in years. Here was someone who was genuinely happy to see me, who hugged me like I was the most important person in the world. My parents greeted Grandpa William with forced smiles, and Madison barely looked up from her phone. "Come on, family," said my grandfather, clapping his hands. "Today is a day of celebration. I reserved a table at Terraço do Vale." My eyes widened. Terraço do Vale was the fanciest restaurant in town, the kind of place where dishes cost more than I earned in a day of work. During the trip to the restaurant, my grandfather wouldn't stop asking me questions. He wanted to know how work was going, if I was happy, what plans I had for the future. It was the first time in years that someone showed genuine interest in my life. "I'm very proud of you, Jake," he said, putting his hand on my shoulder. "Working hard since you were 18, supporting yourself, that shows character." From the back seat, I heard Madison mutter, "Working at the mall isn't exactly impressive." My father chuckled, and my mother sighed as if she were annoyed. The restaurant was even more elegant than I had imagined. Waiters in impeccable uniforms, tables with linen tablecloths, crystal glasses that sparkled under the candlelight. I felt out of place in my simple shirt and jeans, but my grandfather reassured me. "You look perfect, my boy. True elegance comes from within." The dinner was a surreal experience. The food was incredible, each dish a work of art. My grandfather ordered expensive wine and made sure to include me in all the toasts. For the first time in my life, I felt truly celebrated. But my family was acting strange. My parents spoke little and always seemed nervous when my grandfather asked me any questions. Madison was on her phone the whole time, clearly bored. When they tried to talk, they always ended up making derogatory comments about me. "Another year at the mall, right, Jake?" said Madison with that tone of superiority I knew well. "When are you going to get a real job?" My mother laughed. "Yeah, at your age you should have more ambition." I felt my face heat up with anger and shame, but my grandfather immediately came to my defense. "Ambition? This boy has been working since he was 18. While others his age are spending their parents' money, he's building his independence. That's much more than ambition. It's dignity." The awkwardness at the table was palpable. My parents lowered their eyes, and Madison finally put away her phone. Dessert arrived, a delicious tiramisu that cost more than my lunch for a week. It was then that my grandfather looked at me with that loving smile and asked the question that changed everything. "By the way, Jake, tell me, how was the gift I sent you last year?" I was confused for a moment. "The gift?" "Yes, the birthday gift. Did you like it?" I thought about the cheap cake my parents had bought. "Oh yes, thank you for the cake, Grandpa. It was very thoughtful of you." My grandfather's smile disappeared. He frowned as if something wasn't adding up. "Cake? What cake?" "The cake you asked them to buy for my birthday," I explained, starting to feel a chill in my stomach. "Jake, I didn't ask them to buy any cake," he said, looking directly at my parents. "What's this story?" My mother tried to intervene. "Dad, maybe there was a misunderstanding." "No," said my grandfather, raising his hand. "No misunderstanding. Jake, didn't you receive the car I sent you?" The world stopped. "Car? What car?" "The red Civic I bought and had delivered to your house on your birthday. A brand new car with all the documents in your name." I felt like the ground had disappeared under my feet. I didn't receive any car, Grandpa. Just the cake." The silence at the table was deafening. My parents were pale, and Madison had stopped breathing. My grandfather looked at each of them, and I saw his expression change from confusion to a cold fury I had never seen in him. "Where?" he said, pronouncing each word with dangerous calm. "Is the car I bought for my grandson?" My parents started stammering, trying to make up excuses. My mother said something about delivery problems. My father blamed the transport company. But my grandfather wasn't stupid. He had built a company from scratch. He knew when they were lying to him. "I want the truth," he said, hitting his hand on the table so hard that the glasses trembled. "Now." The entire restaurant was looking at us. Other customers whispered among themselves, discreetly pointing at our table. But I didn't care. I was in total shock. A car? My grandfather had given me a car? It was my mother who finally gave in. With a trembling voice, she confessed, We sold the car." "Sold?" I shouted, unable to control myself. "You sold my car?" "We needed the money," said my father, trying to justify himself. Things were difficult and Madison was needing what? I exploded. More designer clothes, more expensive sneakers, more resort trips? My grandfather was absolutely livid. "You took the gift I bought specifically for Jake and sold it to pay for Madison's luxuries?" "It wasn't just for Madison," my mother tried to defend herself. "It was for the whole family. We took that trip, bought things we needed." "Lies!" I shouted. "I didn't go on the trip. I never saw a cent of that money. You spent it all on yourselves." My grandfather stood up from his chair. 32,000 reais, he said, his voice cutting. "That's what the car was worth. 32,000 reais that I saved working in Portugal to give a decent gift to my grandson. And you sold it to buy frivolities." The amount shocked me even more. 32,000 reais, more than I earned in 2 years working at the mall, and they had sold it like it was nothing. "Dad, please, let me explain," my mother tried, but my grandfather didn't want to hear it. "There's no explanation," he said. "You betrayed my trust. You stole from my grandson, and I'm sure this isn't the first time." He looked at me with an expression of deep sadness. "Jake, my boy, I need to tell you something. That car wasn't the only gift I sent you." My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" "For the last 3 years, every month I sent specific money for you, for your studies, for your needs, so you could have opportunities. I transferred it to your parents because I trusted they would pass it on to you. But now I understand you never saw any of it." I looked at my parents with a mixture of horror and rage. "How many years?" I asked, my voice hoarse. 3 years, my grandfather replied. 600 reais a month plus household expenses. Money that was rightfully yours. I did the math quickly. 600 rays a month for 3 years. More than 20,000 rays. Added to the 32,000 from the car, they had stolen more than 50,000 rays from me. "You're thieves," I said, with a coldness that surprised me. "Thieves from your own family." Madison finally found her voice. "Jake, don't be dramatic. That money helped the whole family." "It helped you," I corrected. "It helped pay for your clothes, your sneakers, your outings. I never saw a cent. I worked like a slave while you lived like royalty with money that was mine." My grandfather put his hand on my shoulder. "Jake, you're not staying one more day in that house. Come with me to Portugal. There you'll have the opportunities you deserve." I didn't think twice. "When?" "Now. Today. Let's get your things and go to the airport." My parents panicked. "Dad, you can't be serious," said my mother. "He's our son." "Son?" My grandfather laughed bitterly. "You treated this boy like a stranger his whole life. You humiliated him, robbed him, despised him, and now you want to talk about being a son?" He turned to me. "The decision is yours, Jake. You can stay here and continue being treated like garbage, or you can come with me and have the life you always deserved." I looked at my family. My parents were desperate, but not out of love. They were afraid of losing the money my grandfather sent. Madison seemed in shock, finally understanding that her princess life might be coming to an end. "I'm going," I said, standing up from the table. "I have nothing left here." My grandfather smiled for the first time since the truth had been revealed. "Then let's go, my boy. Your new life starts now." When we left the restaurant, leaving my family at the table with the bill to pay, I felt a relief I hadn't experienced in years. Finally, someone had seen the truth. Finally, I had a chance to be valued. "Grandpa," I said as we walked to the car, "thank you for believing in me." "I always believed," he replied, "and now you're going to see what it's like to have a real family." The trip to Portugal was like a dream. My grandfather had bought first-class tickets, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly cared for. During the flight, he told me about the new life that awaited me. "I have a consulting company in Lisbon," he explained. "I started small, but it's grown a lot in recent years. You're going to work with me, learn the business. You have a talent for this. You always did." When we arrived in Lisbon, I was impressed by his house. It was a mansion in an upscale neighborhood with impeccable gardens and a stunning view of the city. But what caught my attention most was the garage. "Choose one," he said, pointing to a row of sports cars. "The one that was yours is no longer there. But any of these can be yours." There was a metallic blue BMW, a gleaming black Audi, and in the corner, a red Porsche that left me breathless. "That one," I said, pointing to the Porsche. "Good choice," my grandfather laughed. "You have good taste." In the first days, I still couldn't believe the change. I had a room bigger than my parents' living room, a closet full of clothes my grandfather had ordered, and most importantly, I had respect. My grandfather consulted me about company decisions, valued my opinions, treated me as an equal. The work at the consulting firm was challenging, but rewarding. I dealt with important clients, made complex analyses, and felt that I was finally using my potential. My salary was 10 times higher than what I earned at the mall, and for the first time in my life, I had money to do whatever I wanted. But the most important thing was the sense of belonging. My grandfather introduced me to friends as my grandson, the future of the company. He was proud of me, and that made all the difference. During the first months, my phone rang constantly. They were calls from Brazil, from my parents, and Madison. I ignored them all. I had nothing to talk about with them. They had robbed me, humiliated me, treated me like trash for years. Now that they no longer had my grandfather's money, they wanted to talk. My grandfather told me he had cut off all financial support the day after our departure. "They made their bed," he said. "Now let them sleep in it." 6 months later, curiosity finally won. One night, after a particularly good day at work, I decided to answer one of the calls. It was my mother. "Jake, thank God, are you okay? We were worried." I almost laughed. "Worried? What do you want?" "We want to talk, son. You're our family, we miss you here." "Family." I repeated the word like it was poisonous. Where was that family when I needed it? Where was it when you sold my car to pay for Madison's princess life? "Jake, please let me explain. We're going through difficulties. Without your grandfather's money, things got very difficult. They're going to evict us next week." Now I really laughed. "And what does that have to do with me?" "You're our son. You have an obligation to help us. Obligation? What obligation do I have to you? You treated me like trash my whole life. Now you want me to be the good son who helps the family? I heard my mother start to cry. Please, Jake, we know we made mistakes, but we're your family. You can't leave us on the street. You left me on the street emotionally my whole life, I replied. Now experience what it's like literally. My father took the phone. Jake, stop this ingratitude. After everything we did for you, everything you did for me, I exploded. You stole more than 50,000 Rs from me. You sold my car. You humiliated me. You treated me like I was a burden. And now you come talking about ingratitude? We raised you, gave you a house, food. You gave me the minimum required while giving the maximum to Madison. Don't come asking me for gratitude now. I heard a third voice. It was Madison. Jake, you're being dramatic. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad? I almost screamed. You spent the money that was mine on designer clothes for you. You went traveling and left me out. You mocked me every day. But now you have a good life. You don't need to be resentful. I have a good life despite you, not because of you. And you know what else? I'm happy knowing you're in misery. Finally, you're paying for what you did. My mother came back to the phone sobbing. Please, Jake. We're your family. You can't abandon us like this. You abandoned me first, I replied. The difference is that now I have a choice, and I choose to have nothing to do with you. But we're your parents. Real parents don't do what you did. Real parents don't steal from their children. Real parents don't humiliate their children to elevate others. There was a long silence. Then my mother said, What if we ask for forgiveness? Forgiveness doesn't bring back the years of humiliation. Forgiveness doesn't bring back the money you stole. Forgiveness doesn't erase the pain you caused. So you're going to leave us on the street? I'm not the one leaving you on the street. It was your choices that led you to this. You could have used Grandpa's money responsibly. You could have included me in the family. You could have treated me with respect. But you chose to humiliate and steal. Now deal with the consequences. My father tried one last card. And Madison? She's not to blame for any of this. Not to blame? I laughed with contempt. She participated in every humiliation. She laughed at me, called me a failure, took advantage of every cent of the money that was mine. She's as guilty as you are. But she's your sister. Sister is someone who stands by your side, who supports you. Madison was never my sister. She was just a stranger who shared the same house. I heard Madison scream in the background. I always hated you anyway. You were always a burden on this family. Perfect, I said, calmly. Finally, the truth. Thank you for confirming everything I always knew. My mother came back to the phone, desperate. Jake, please. At least give us a chance to redeem ourselves. You had 23 years of chances. You wasted them all. But now it's different. We understand our mistakes. You only understood when the money ran out. If Grandpa was still sending money, you wouldn't have even called me. There was another silence. I had hit the nail on the head. You know what makes me most angry? I continued. It's not even the money. It's the fact that you never really loved me. I was just an inconvenience you tolerated. And now, when you need something, you want to pretend I'm a son. We do love you, said my mother. No, you love the idea of what I can do for you now. It's different. I hung up the phone and put it on silent. I didn't want to hear their pathetic pleas anymore. My grandfather, who had heard part of the conversation, put his hand on my shoulder. How do you feel? Free, I replied. And it was true. For the first time in my life, I feel truly free. In the following weeks, my grandfather told me what was happening in Brazil. The family had been evicted and was living in a tiny apartment in a dangerous neighborhood. My father had gotten a job at a factory earning minimum wage. My mother was cleaning houses to supplement the income. And Madison, who had never worked a day in her life, had to accept a job at a coffee shop. They're paying for years of arrogance, said my grandfather. They always thought they were better than everyone else, that they deserved a life of luxury without working for it. I felt deep satisfaction knowing they were finally facing reality. It wasn't revenge, it was justice. My new life in Portugal prospered more each day. My grandfather taught me everything about the business, and I discovered I had a natural talent for it. Within a year, I was already managing important accounts and contributing significantly to the company's success. I met incredible people, made true friends, even started dating a colleague from the company, Sophia, who treated me with the respect and affection I had never experienced before. "You're a special person. Jake," she would tell me, "you have an inner strength that's admirable." Sometimes I would tell her about my childhood, about how my family treated me. She would be horrified. "How can parents treat a child like that? It's incomprehensible." "Because they never saw me as a real son," I would explain. "I was just an accident they tolerated." 2 years after my departure, my phone rang again. It was a number I didn't recognize, but when I answered, I heard my mother's voice. "Jake, it's me. Please don't hang up. How did you get this number? I asked an investigator to find you. Jake, please, I need to tell you something important." Against my better judgment, I listened. "Madison is sick. Cancer. She needs treatment, but we don't have money. She could die." I felt a knot in my chest, but not of pity. It was anger. "And what does that have to do with me? She's your sister. Even with all the problems, she's family." "No, she's not. She chose not to be when she spent years humiliating me." "Jake, please, she's sorry. She wants to talk to you." "I'm not interested. How can you be so cold? It's a matter of life and death. She had a whole lifetime to treat me like a brother. She chose not to do that. Now in the hour of need, she wants me to forget everything? But she's family. Family is someone who's by your side in good times and bad. Family is someone who supports you, loves you, respects you. You were never my family. You were just people who shared the same house with me." I heard sobs from the other side of the line. "Jake, I know we made mistakes. We all made mistakes. But please don't let your sister die." "She's not my sister," I repeated. "And even if she were, you taught me that family doesn't help family. After all, when I needed help, where were you?" I hung up the phone and never answered calls from that country again. 3 years passed. My life in Portugal was perfect. I had married Sophia, we bought a beautiful house in the center of Lisbon, and I had become a partner in my grandfather's company. We were rich, respected, happy. On a quiet Sunday, my grandfather called me to talk. "Jake, I have something to tell you. I received a call from Brazil yesterday." My stomach contracted. "About what?" "Madison died last week. Cancer." I felt nothing. Neither sadness nor relief. Just a neutral emptiness. "How are they?" "Destroyed. Your father had a heart attack after the funeral and is in the hospital. Your mother is alone with no money for anything." I was silent for a long time. "Do you feel anything?" asked my grandfather. "No," I replied honestly. "Should I?" "There's no right or wrong here, Jake. They made choices. You made yours. They could have had a good life if they had treated me like family. They could have used the money you sent wisely. They could have created an environment of love at home. But they chose the path of humiliation and favoritism." My grandfather nodded. "And now they're paying the price." "I don't feel sorry," I said. "I feel that justice was finally done." That night, I told Sophia everything. She hugged me tight. "You did the right thing," she said. "Family isn't who shares DNA with you. Family is who loves you, respects you, stands by your side. Your grandfather is your family. I am your family." She was right. I looked around, my beautiful house, my wonderful wife, my grandfather who loved me unconditionally, my prosperous company, and I realized I had found my true family, people who valued me, who believed in me, who treated me with respect and affection. That's what family really meant. My mother tried to contact me a few more times over the years, always with some new tragedy, always asking for help. I never responded. I had closed that chapter of my life forever. Today, at 28, I am a fulfilled man. I have a prosperous company, a family that loves me, true friends. I learned that sometimes to find happiness, you need to have the courage to leave behind toxic people, even if they share your blood. My grandfather William saved me, not just financially, but emotionally. He showed me what it's like to be truly loved, what it's like to have someone proud of you, what it's like to be part of a real family. And as for my biological family, well, they reaped exactly what they sowed. For years, they sowed contempt, humiliation, and selfishness. It was natural that they would reap loneliness, poverty, and regret. I feel no remorse. I feel gratitude for having had the strength to get out of that toxic situation and build a life based on true love and mutual respect. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is have the courage to abandon those who don't deserve you, even if they're family. Because true family is choice, not obligation. And I chose well.